What is up, everybody? Welcome to Shadow Zone Paranormal Talk. I am your host with the most, Brian James. With me, with me always is Mr. Eldon.
Hey, man, you always catch me during my coffee break. What is up with that, man? You just think this is a joke or something? You think this is funny? Because, this is kind of ridiculous. Every time you turn around, you get me on a coffee break, bro.
Hey, that's what I do, man. That's what I do. I got to take my coffee break, too. I
that's
just got
cool.
one twice your size.
It's always twice my size. Why is that, too? You just kind of picking on me today or what, But, hey, look, all kidding aside, man, we got a really good show tonight, man. We got some pretty cool people coming on, and I am really, really proud to meet this gentleman and talk with him a little bit and see what's on his mind. And I would like to get some kind of, perspective from his side on, what he thinks about paranormal, and it's going to be very interesting, man. I think it's going to be an outstanding show. What do you think, Brian?
Oh, this is going to be a fantastic show for anybody who's watching tonight. Not only do we have Chris McKinnell, but we also have Sarah James, we have Matt Barron, we have Brian from Parapost Network. Man, I can't wait to dive in and get started.
What a lineup, man. What a lineup. So, we're going to learn a lot, I think, on this one. It's going to be very educational. I'm excited. So why don't we get started, Brian? Go ahead, bro. Let's bring them out.
All right. We'll bring out our first two, Mr. Chris McKinnell and Sarah James.
Hey, how you doing, Chris? Hello, Sarah. How are you?
Doing great. How you guys doing tonight?
Outstanding, outstanding.
Fantastic.
So Sarah, why don't you, it looks like you're the Canadian regional director there for the Warren Foundation. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you explain to us a little bit about what you do and what you're involved in?
Okay. I met Chris about probably 3 years ago now, and I interviewed him, and we kind of struck up a friendship, and I've been working on things ever since. And recently he gave me the great opportunity to be the Canadian Regional Director. I'm a spiritualist medium, and I work helping both the living and those that have passed. And it's very much something that is dear to my heart, and I'm over the moon that Chris has trusted me with this opportunity.
Outstanding, outstanding. So Chris, Brian, take it away with Chris.
What is it that you do in the paranormal world, sir?
I help people and I educate people. That's basically my whole existence. My job is to help people in trouble and when they believe it's the paranormal, regardless of whether it is or isn't. And it's also to educate the public so that they can avoid problems with the paranormal. Our other goals are to educate the next generation of researchers. And we also have 2 support groups that help people with their psychic abilities, both in English and in Spanish.
Awesome.
Nice.
So Chris, you mentioned that you're also helping out our next generation of, investigators and things like that. I'm very curious. What are what is your concept to the term para-unity? Do you have any kind of opinion on that at all?
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Okay.
It's a lovely idea. It really is. Everybody should get along. Everybody should support
Sure.
everybody. But the way I describe it is, just because you want to be a surgeon doesn't mean I should give you a scalpel and say, go ahead and do it.
Correct.
Get the training first. Learn what
Correct.
you're doing, because we're dealing with people's lives. And if you don't have it, at least somebody on your team who understands basic psychology, who understands the dynamics of mental health issues, who understands the paranormal. If you're going in there just to get clicks and likes and evidence and use your machines to get readings, you're not really there to help anyone. The foundation, the Warren Legacy Foundation for Paranormal Research, has a code of ethics that all of us ascribe to. And it's my lifelong goal to make that code of ethics something that's adopted worldwide, regardless of whether people are with the foundation or not. It's like the Hippocratic Oath, basically. And
Are you willing to share that those code of ethics with us here tonight?
Sure. Yeah,
I'd like to hear it,
post them
man.
online all the time. Basically, if you're not there to help, you shouldn't be there at all. You don't go into abandoned buildings alone. If you go into a building like that, your purpose better be to help somebody, like a spirit pass over. You're never alone with your clients. You don't have relationships with your clients, romantic relationships. Sarah, you want to help me here? It's been a while since I looked at my own code of ethics.
Well, I think what it talks about is the fact that as a researcher, if you're taking our field seriously, then it's all very well and good saying that you're going to put things up on YouTube or on your Facebook channel or whatever, but it's not like the TV. And I think that's one thing that I personally would like to get out there. Ghost Adventures is not something that we should say this is what we want to do and this is what we want to kind of show and be like. I personally will not go into a business that runs as kind of a paranormal hotspot and rents out places. And I know that that's something that Chris agrees with as well.
Absolutely.
If we're not there to help both the person and the spirit, we should not be there. Simple as that. If we get any evidence, all very well and good. But the thing is with the foundation, it's very good because each case we have to give in lots and lots of information. We have to fill out tons and tons of forms because at the end of the day, we're researchers. And that is what we want to bring forward and to actually grow the field into a professional field and not just the fact that, anybody can buy a K2 off of Amazon and go out and do their best Zach Bagans, but that is not the best. Bless you, Brian. That is not the way to go about it if you're in it for the right reasons. It's not. It's a cool hobby, but it really shouldn't be a hobby.
Exactly. We don't advertise our cases. We don't publicize them. It's one of the things I learned from my grandparents. They were a different time. They did advertise their cases. I saw how badly that publicity affected the families and the towns where these things took place. And I we treat each of our clients as though they're patients and we're medical professionals. We're not. We do have some on staff, but we're not offering medical help. If anything, if I had to describe myself in a very simple way, I'd say I'm a paranormal social worker. I'm there to help you get what you need. And if you need an exorcist, all right, I'm there. But if you need therapy, medication, something like that, we'll help you find those resources. We can't give you those resources, but we can help you find them. There's always an underlying reason why one person or family is vulnerable to the paranormal and not another one. So we always have to investigate, what is it that's going on in your home? What's going on in your life? What's going on with your family that's making you open to this phenomena? Because if we don't deal with those vulnerabilities, then the phenomena can come right back.
Awesome. I like it, man. And I love what you're talking about there, and helping people and helping the spirits and being there to educate and mentor. And like you said, there's a lot of Zach Bagans out there that is giving a lot of, misconceptions of things. And, one of the things that, I think really needs to be put out there is how serious this is, not just for us, but for the clients and the folks that are, horrified by the things they're going through. It's why I got in the field this way. I was horrified with the things I was experiencing, and I want to share that experience with those people that are, going through those things that I did once, and teach them, hey, this is the real thing, and this is how we do it, and this is how to approach it, and that they're not alone, and that's really, I think, the biggest thing. When I went through this, I mean, that was a time that you just didn't discuss these things. They'd put you in a loony bin kind of thing, and so you're all alone going through that, and it's important that they know they're not alone, and that there's people out here to understand. So that's a beautiful thing, and I can appreciate that and that effort and everything that you guys have going on. That is very outstanding. Brian?
I definitely liked your statement that any fool could hold a K2 meter and say he's a paranormal investigator, because you're absolutely right. We have so many of them these days that walk around and I've studied this and this, and I've got a K2 meter and this and this, and I can be a paranormal investigator. I don't give a shit about my clients, but I can go in there and investigate them ghosts and not help them whatsoever.
That's what bothers me about the TV shows. They go in, they stir things up, and then they leave without solving the problem. And then we get the call. I don't mind cleaning up, but it infuriates me that they have such little regard for the welfare of the people that they should be serving, and they're not. Yeah, and you cannot produce a haunting on a television production schedule. So most of that stuff is absolute crap anyway. And if you did, and I've only watched 2 paranormal programs in my life, other than, I watched a few of the ones that had my grandmother. But that Ghost Adventures, if you did what they do on that program, you'd get yourself hurt. Nobody should do what they make believe they do. I don't even think Zach Bagans believes in the paranormal. I think he's a wonderful entertainer. I think he's a modern day P.T. Barnum, but I don't think he has any respect for the work, and he's all about the money. I mean, he is alluded to the idea that he has things that belonged to my grandparents in his museum. He promotes it that way. It's not true. He's never gotten anything from my grandparents or from my family.
Right.
But that's who he is. That's what he is.
So backstage, we got a couple friends with us, and I want to kind of bring out Matt Barron. He is our paranormal consultant, and I'm sure he's going to have some interesting questions as well, if you don't mind there, Chris and Sarah. All right, and so let's go ahead and bring Matt to the foreground here. How you doing, Matt?
Says, how we doing, guys?
Everybody. And
Chris,
she shared
Sarah,
this out.
Matt, it's a pleasure to meet you.
You folks as well. Eldon, Brian, appreciate you guys and honored to you guys inviting me on here.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, sir.
If you can introduce yourself a little bit, Matt, and kind of tell us what you do, man, and let us know kind of what's on your mind and what you're contributing to the field, brother.
Well, first of all, I actually, for Sarah and Chris, you've probably heard the term paranormal consultant a couple of times in this field. What I do is a little different. What I'm about is helping out teams and enthusiasts, basically educate them, support them, kind of guide them in a sense from my 15 years of experience. I know you guys trump me on that, but yeah, I just try to help out where I can as a support role. And you know, I have to fully agree. And I'm going to say it because you said it first, Chris, but that whole Zach Bagans, calling him an entertainer to me is entertaining, and it's putting it mildly, but I agree. If you're going to go in this field, there's two different things for me. You're either a ghost hunter, which is the enthusiast, the hobbyists. Yeah. And then there's an actual investigator. Those are the people to where, you know, I think we can all agree you need the training and you need to understand that. And I tell people all the time, we are only there for a few hours, maybe even a couple days. These clients of ours live there. So the effects of what we do, you know, affect them longer than what it would us. And you have to take that into account. And I completely agree. You have to build a relationship with your clientele of trust. That is first and foremost. And you have to trust your crew. And if you're not 100% confident in what you're doing, don't do it. You can cause a lot more harm to your clientele than you could anywhere else. I mean, if you want to be an enthusiast, you want to go out, YouTube, Facebook, have fun, that's fine. That's fine. You're getting knowledge, you're getting experience, you're having fun, you're enjoying life. Great. But as soon as you take on that clientele and you try to be an investigator, you better take it serious.
Yeah. Yeah. You're dealing with, I mean, I've got 2 cases where people have died. And my grandparents had others. You know, we're dealing with lives. We're not, it's not just things going bump in the night. One of our other rules in our code of ethics is if you feel that you can't handle the case, then you get help. You don't try to do it yourself, and you don't drop the case. You bring in other people. Because for us, the client always comes first, always.
100%.
And that's absolutely the way it needs to be, because, I mean, you have, you know, like you guys have said recently, teams that'll pretty much play patty cake in the living room and say, oh, our investigation's done. Hope we didn't stir them up too much for you.
Yeah.
Then they have to deal with that, and you guys have to come in and clean that up. I mean, that's got to be frustrating.
It is. Actually, the thing that bothers me also, I can't say more, but also is and this is a pet peeve of Sarah's at these haunted venues. Sarah, you want to talk about that? How they don't, what they don't allow?
Yeah, I've been to, I won't name the place, but I've been to a prison, and I was told under no circumstances was I allowed to release any spirit to the light. Now, my belief as a spiritualist medium is that these are not performing monkeys that can be caged there for people who are paying. And they have every right to be released to a better place, no matter where that place we believe is. And I don't think any of us will know until we're on the other side. That's why they call it faith. So, you know, I must admit that when I left that place, because I can remote view, I did what they asked me not to do. And I went and I did release 2 or 3 spirits. I'm a naughty girl, but you know what? That's just not what I believe in. That's not what I'm all about.
Well, brava.
I you know, when people actually believe in the spirits and still won't allow you to help them, to me, that's slavery.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
These are your grandparents. your aunts and uncles, and they're being held here against their will. That's not appropriate.
Yeah.
And
So-
that actually happens in a lot of these public venues.
So we all know what Facebook is and what it entails. I'm curious, Chris, if we had a paranormal Facebook, how would you feel about something like that? It was just nothing but paranormal.
I probably wouldn't be on it very often. All right, here's a dirty little secret.
Uh-oh.
I am not a big fan of the paranormal anymore. I have seen it all. Actually, this week I had probably the strangest experience. And for me, it's about helping people. If there weren't
Right.
people to help, I wouldn't want to do this. I've resigned myself to believing that I will never truly understand all of the paranormal in my lifetime.
I don't think anybody can, Chris.
No, and we don't have the theories yet. I
Right,
think that
right.
when we have a unified field theory in physics, which combines Newtonian and quantum physics,
Mhm.
then we'll start to unlock some of those doors. But it's going to take a major paradigm shift, and
Right.
people don't want to change, and that includes scientists. They're very reluctant to accept new ideas. They have to be proven again and again and again. And if there's evidence out there that contradicts a theory, then they will do everything they can to debunk the evidence instead of looking at the evidence for what it is. For instance, I was on a case, actually it was 2 years after the case ended, and it had been a poltergeist case.
Mhm.
And I was visiting with my cousin John, and they invited us to spend the night.
Mhm.
And we kicked the 10-year-old out of his bed, so he had his place to sleep. And as soon as we turned out the light, my cousin starts yelling that I'm kicking the bed. I'm like, Johnny, I'm in my sleeping bag. I'm not moving. He turns out the light. Then he starts yelling at me again. And the bed picks up, flies across the room, smashes down, and breaks into pieces with 2 grown men on it. John ran out of that house so damn fast.
I don't
And
blame
I'm
him.
laughing my butt off. But here's the thing. Science cannot explain that.
No.
And they're not willing to accept that it happened. Instead, they would want to say it's a shared delusion, or, it was one of us having a seizure, although neither of us have ever had seizures. And this was, ages ago.
Right.
So there is no scientific explanation for the phenomena that we face. I said that there was something really strange that had happened this week. Now, this is not scary. It's just bizarre. I only own 2 pair of pants because I live out of a backpack. I'm all over the world helping people and learning. And a few months ago, one of my pair of pants, I fell and I ripped the knee open. Well, I haven't worn them since then. I wore them for a while and then I stopped. But I needed to put them on this week to do laundry. And when I put them on, the hole in the knee was gone. It's miraculously sealed, as though it had never been ripped. Now, I have no problem with energy manipulation. I have no problem with being picked up over stairs and almost thrown down the stairs. I have a problem with pants repairing themselves.
Send them here, Chris.
Yeah, I got a
Wow.
I got a truck that needs some help. I mean,
Why couldn't it
So-
be something like that?
So the reason I asked you about that particular kind of a program, Chris, is we've got a gentleman in the backstage here. He has developed and put out a network that is exactly just that. And we call it Parapost Network, or parapost.net. And I would like for him to actually come out right now and join us. And maybe you can pick his brain and vice versa. So, Brian Laverty, come on in.
I think I'm definitely the wrong person to come up on the show right now.
Well, I think, Brian, you and Sarah are neighbors, aren't you, up there in Canada?
Well, I for some reason I don't. The name sounds familiar, and I don't know. Maybe we've somehow met or crossed paths at one point, because Sarah James sounds very familiar to me. It's weird, and your face looks familiar too. Whereabouts are you in Canada?
I'm in the Kootenay Mountains of British Columbia.
Okay, so no, we definitely haven't met.
I've got one of
Yeah, we
those
definitely
faces.
haven't. I live in Toronto, so
Okay.
yeah, so yeah, Parapost Network, and it's funny that. By the way, Chris, my name is Brian John. Sarah, my name is Brian John, and
Nice to meet
very nice to meet you.
That's a pleasure.
I was a big fan of your grandmother's. I watched her all the time on Paranormal State.
Yep.
And I was a big fan of that show. That was probably one of the only shows I was a fan of. Ghost
too.
Adventures, for me personally, I think it was good at the beginning, and then it just became something completely different because of ratings. And I understand why they do what they do. But Paranormal State, man, that was it's still on. It's still on here in Canada on
Is it really?
on the Discovery Channel.
Wow.
And it's great. It's on at 3:00 in the morning.
Of course.
Wow.
It's a great show. But yeah, definitely. I'm glad Chris, Eldon, and Brian asked me to come on the show, and it's a pleasure meeting you both. And yes, I started a social media site for the paranormal back in March, which is called Parapost Network. And basically what this site is, it's for yes, the paranormal, but it's also for UFOs, cryptics, supernatural, and enthusiasts. And so my platform is to be honest, my platform are for the real investigators, not the TV show investigators. So it's a platform that I wanted to build so other investigators can come together and share their evidence, share their pictures, document whatever they captured. And it's just for people to meet each other from around the world.
That's wonderful.
And that's why I created this platform. And it's been going extremely well. We're starting to get noticed, and Eldon and Matt and Brian have really helped me in the last couple of weeks. And right now we're sitting at 24,000 views a month. So it's doing well. And the people that we're getting on the site are the real investigators, the people that, either behind the science or, I put paranormal investigators in 3 categories. And the one is the science. The one are the hunters, and the ones that are looking for the answers to help. That's the 3 I put in. I think I'm the 3rd one.
Yeah.
Because that's what I do. And I agree with you completely. If you're not in there to at least help them, there's no reason for you to be there.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of my pet peeves is, and I would love to think that your site is different from what you're saying. People are sharing their research. That's fantastic. One of the things I've found with groups or individuals who want to join the foundation, we are a research foundation, and they are so afraid to share their research. And it's like, all right, why are you doing this? What good is your knowledge if you don't share it? Scientists share their knowledge. And we have to do the same if we're going to be professional. We have projects in the works, but
I'm going to my mic for a minute, Eldon. I'm feeling that feeling again. And you can feel free to explain.
He's already muted. I'm going to tell you right. I just muted him. Y'all don't need to hear that.
He's under the weather. He's under the weather.
I will. So. Yeah, I'll save you guys the details.
Chris, I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying. I think the biggest problem for me personally is when I see that it's about ego.
Exactly.
And that's all it is.
Right.
And unfortunately, there's too much of that in this field, unfortunately. And I think with the bigger, let's say, I hate to use this example, but for the bigger YouTubers that have like 2-3 million subs, it's all about ego and it's about money. And you said it early with about Zach. It's all about the money,
Yes.
and the ratings, and it has nothing to do with the paranormal, to be honest.
I've seen what ego does,
Mm.
and I struggle constantly to stay myself. I never want anybody to put me on a pedestal. I never want anybody to treat me with that kind of respect because I don't think I deserve it. I think I'm only just one soul, just like every other person trying to get closer to God. And if you elevate me, then all I can do is fall. And I'm not interested in that. Ego, once ego is in the room, God is out of the room. And this is God's work, not mine.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree totally.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you were saying, Chris, about sharing the evidence, and I know, Brian, you created an amazing, not just website, but the apps as well for the phone, and that's what it's about. And I use an analogy, Chris, when I talk about like this unity and getting these answers. Well, I always say that the biggest answer or question everyone always gets asked is there life after death? Us as investigators, we know there's life after death. That's been answered. The question is what happens. And I feel us as actual legit investigators, we are nothing but a big jigsaw puzzle, and we're all little pieces. And once we start networking, coming together like adults and professionally putting those pieces together, we'll get our answers. And
Exactly.
that is one thing I feel 100% that Brian's out to do. Eldon's out to do. The other Brian, wherever he went, he's out to do. And that's my goal as well, is that one word, network. And if you do it correctly, it can be a beautiful thing. And I think that's something we're really working towards.
Well, that's what the foundation is supposed to be doing, building a worldwide network of professionals who are dedicated to helping their clients. But it's amazing to me the number of people who think that we want their data to enrich ourselves. I mean, I live out of a backpack. I don't own a thing. I mean, I carry one keepsake with me. This.
Oh, that is cool.
Oh, that is cool. That's the only thing I've got. I just money doesn't interest me.
I need to turn the switch on.
Yeah, I feel you, Chris. I'm actually recording in my basement. This is just a green screen that I have like almost literally taped up. And as far as keepsakes, I've got a Pikachu Pez dispenser that I use for a little comic relief here and there. But you don't need the high end stuff to get what we want, to get those answers. It's just integrity. What it comes
you got a telephone, you've got everything you need. It records
100%.
Video, camera, and it can be manipulated by energy. That's it.
So let me
cool.
So let me ask you this, Chris. It's something that you referred to earlier about going into a place and investigating and helping those people out. What do you think about the places that you investigate that they don't really want the help? They just want the answer and what's there.
Yeah.
That they're not looking for help. They're not looking to get rid of it because they want it there. And how do you feel about that?
We vet our clients very carefully before we actually make a home visit. And when it becomes obvious to us that all they want to do is attach the Warren name to an investigation so that they can glamorize it and put it in the public eye, we're not interested. We can only help people who want to help themselves. And if they don't want the help for real, then they shouldn't waste our time because there are too many people who do need help.
Right.
Yeah. For example, I went into, I'm doing an investigation in January. So this is actually like a bar and an inn. And this bar and inn has been around since 1789. And it's actually kind of burned down in the War of 1812. So I actually went there because they're actually wanting us to investigate the place. But if you go online and you look at their website, they're actually promoting that they have experiences, which is fine, and it's their business. They can do whatever they want to do with it. And so I'm actually going to be investigating there. It's not necessarily that they would like the answers on who's there, but they don't necessarily want to get rid of it because it's part of their story and part of their history. And I'm going to investigate there, but I am on the fence because when I was upstairs, there's definitely a woman upstairs, and she's sad, and it's almost like she wants to leave, but she doesn't know how to leave.
She's probably afraid too. It's her
Yeah.
fear holding her back.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's fear.
Yeah. So
Counseling is what she needs.
yeah, so we're definitely going to be investigating there in January. But I'm on the fence about a lot of things with this place, even though it's a great place. And I actually walked around with my phone while she was showing me places, and I captured EVPs on my phone on the voice recorder. And it's like we were downstairs in the basement, we were upstairs in the inn, we were in the restaurant part, and it was just amazing. But I'm on the fence. And what you said earlier really made me think, is this something I should really be doing?
Are you allowed to help the woman who's upstairs?
Well, there's more because I'm actually considered a sensitive as myself. So when I walked into there, first thing that happened to me, my eyes started hurting. And I knew something was with the eyes. And I asked, did the man wear glasses? They didn't really have a picture of him. And then I said, there's a boy in here. And she goes, well, it's funny you say that because there used to be an orphanage right beside this place. So I picked up on the boy, but the woman was really, really strong, and she was upstairs. And
if you're allowed to help, then go for it.
yeah,
Do it. Often, at least, all right, now this is me. I'm a therapist.
Yeah.
So I resort to counseling. I resort to therapy with a spirit if they don't want to pass over. The biggest problem I see in the paranormal, besides the cowboys, is fear, because fear manifests in very dangerous ways.
Yeah.
And I believe that a tremendous amount of the paranormal is self-manifestation. Ghosts are very real, but ghosts are, for the most part, harmless. I mean, you pass 1,000 people a day. How many of them are stone cold killers? People are just people.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's interesting.
Just because there's a knock on your door, don't jump out of your skin. It's probably grandma come to check on you.
There's far too many people these days that every knock, every smell, every electrical problem is a demon. I don't even like using the word demon. The minute you would say that to somebody, can you imagine the fear that you instill in them?
Right.
And that fear in itself, if you have any type of mental health training, the fear itself becomes almost a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely.
I always say as well, Brian, if you're thinking about the spirits that are in that place, I've got a saying, ghosts are people too.
Yeah,
and my job as a medium is to counsel the dead as well as the living.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I've seen a lot of things over my time and being in this world, and unfortunately, a lot of things have disgusted me and really offended me, and it's like, if you go through Facebook or something like that, and this is why I created Parapost Network, because the mounds and mounds and mounds of crap that go through Facebook, and people putting up a picture going, oh, look what I caught, and it's just a reflection from your camera.
Yeah.
And it's like this is exactly why I created Parapost, so real investigators can come over to the site and meet other real investigators and there's no egos. And one thing I always say that I love about this site, and you guys are going to be surprised when I say this, okay? One thing I love about my site, absolutely no drama.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that.
I will second that one. I will second
absolutely
that 100%.
no drama. And there's just people are signing up to the site and they know what they're getting, and they can just go through and look at people's blogs. They can look at their pictures. They can, speak to them, become friends with them, share their evidence together. And this is why I created the site, for real investigators that want to speak to real investigators. And
you'll have to send me a link. I'm very interested in checking it out.
Yeah, I definitely will, for sure.
Definitely is a wonderful site. Eldon, I know this is your and Brian's show, but actually they're segueing to a question I wrote down for Sarah and Chris, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Let's go. Yeah, no, go ahead, man. Go ahead. So
one thing, Sarah and Chris, what I always say on my show is this isn't Hollywood. I've done over 400 homesteading businesses as far as the clients myself, and I hear the D word, as I like to say, almost every time. But I want your guys' thoughts on the Hollywood versus the real life stuff, because I want to hear what your experience is, what your thoughts are.
Sarah?
I have been able to see and speak to spirit ever since I was a little girl. The one thing that I will tell you is in the, 48 years along now, I have only come across what I would call a D word, demon, probably twice. And it wasn't Beelzebub himself. It was a low-level entity who was there to create havoc. Yep. But unfortunately, I think you get too many people now that, the funny thing with me, and I make Chris laugh, is I won't watch a horror movie. They scare me too much.
Hey, Sarah, I'm right there with you, but I pick them apart. I sit and I yes. My wife wanted to see it, the first one, the newest one, the chapter 1. And the entire time she's telling me to shut up in the movie theater, because I'm like, well, it's got demonic qualities, but it could be a poltergeist, but it could be an intelligent and delicious. And I'm just going through everything and trying to diagnose what Pennywise is. So I'm right there with you.
Stephen King is pretty awesome, though. I can read his books. I just can't watch the movies.
Well, most of his movies are not very good. He's really hit or miss, I have to admit. His books are great, but only about half of his movies get the budget they need to actually be good.
Maybe we should be talking about Chucky. Oh, ridiculous.
This is not a big deep secret, but I hate dolls.
Oh, so do I. Yeah, I do well with
it. And it's on record too. I've admitted that. Nope.
There's certain things in this paranormal field that I won't go near. Dolls and Ouija boards. I won't do any of them.
Yeah.
I just won't. I just think they're ridiculous, to be honest. I'm not saying that, maybe I should rephrase that. It's something that I won't touch. I won't go near because I have no interest. And I'm sorry. There's I love Jesse from D's Ghost. He's a partner for Parapost with his equipment, but he has that doll that is like an EMF, and it looks phenomenal. It's great. Yeah. But I'm sorry. First of all, I don't like dolls, and then you have a doll that lights up.
Nope.
I won't do it. Not doing it.
Nope.
And you're bringing it into paranormal situations and interacting with it, and you create an attachment to the doll, and then it becomes easy for a spiritual attachment to form. That's probably not a great idea. Yeah. So my answer, the Conjuring movies, for instance, are based on real cases, but they're not true. The Annabelle movies are based on a real doll, but none of those stories are accurate at all. The Annabelle stories are complete fantasies. The Nun, completely made up. There's nothing real about the Nun. The only thing real in the Nun is during the credits at the end when the character known as Frenchie, whose real name was Maurice Theriault, was having an exorcism. And I was there for that with my grandparents. As a matter of fact, that was the exorcism where my grandfather had a heart attack.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was not in Conjuring 3. It was actually the Maurice Theriault exorcism, which was pretty amazing.
Interesting. I do have one question for you, Chris, and I've always been curious. How did your grandmother get involved with Paranormal State?
I really don't know.
Okay.
I'm from what little I remember, the fella that was in charge of Paranormal State was a huge fan of hers.
Okay.
And reached
Ryan.
out.
Ryan.
Yeah, we're talking about Ryan.
Yeah. And my grandmother loved him. Absolutely loved him. So yeah, I think that's probably what had happened. And they offered her this reoccurring role as a consultant, and I have to admit it was kind of fun to see her getting the recognition she deserved after all those years, in all those cases and everything, and it never really happened. They tried to do movies and other things and never really worked out for them. So after my grandfather was gone, to see her be able to blossom like that was really sweet.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Yeah. That's one of the many reasons why I love paranormal. Oh, sorry, Brian.
What would you consider to be one of your favorite cases that your grandparents or Johnny Zaffis has ever done?
John Zaffis, cousin John. John and I worked on the Haunting in Connecticut case. I was the lead investigator on that case. See, calling it a favorite case, there are none that are favorites because they're all dealing with people's pain and people in trouble. And there have been a couple of cases. There are times where you really are helpful and people change and their lives get so much better. And that I love. But from your viewpoint, what is the case? My grandparents would tell you the worst case they ever worked on was Amityville. That it was the one that scared them the most. They were both affected very badly by that. But my grandmother also was very intimidated by Annabelle. So I'm not sure. She wasn't intimidated that much. I mean, she did live with Annabelle for, 50 years.
Is that the one where there's a picture taken of like a little boy upstairs looking around the corner?
Amityville.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was fantastic picture.
Yeah, that was actually taken by a Channel 5 photographer, Channel 5 out of New York City. They had invited my grandparents into that case. And that was not, some people have said that's me. And I'm like, no, I've never been in the Amityville horror. And at that time in my life, I would have been 14 and too afraid of the dark to even consider it. Hey, if your grandparents were with Lorraine Warren, you'd have been afraid of the dark.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so.
I actually watched one of the interviews by your grandmother, Chris, and I really believe, if I remember right, she described that photograph as not actually being the spirit of a little boy. Rather, she believes it was a spirit of a demon.
Absolutely. Yeah. They always said there were no ghosts in that house.
Wow.
But having said that, I do believe in negative entities, but they manifest differently all around the world. So I don't believe in like Christian demons. I don't believe in Beelzebub, Astaroth, Asmodeus, and etc. So my grandfather, being a Catholic, and his entire background was Catholic, his studies were Catholic. He had a certain viewpoint that I don't share, and he saw demons all the time in so many different cases. But then again, he also thought witchcraft was Satanism until the 1990s. It took a long time to get him over that hump. He also thought rock and roll was from Satan.
Okay. I've heard that a lot, actually. I've heard that a lot. People think rock and roll is from Satan. Yeah, that's especially, what's that one group?
Led Zeppelin, Blue Oyster Cult, Black Sabbath.
There was another one, Iron Maiden.
Yes.
Really?
Iron Maiden was big on that.
Yep.
And supposedly if you spun the record backwards, it had hidden messages in the songs.
They said the same thing about some of the Beatles albums.
Yeah.
Something about Paul is dead, Paul is dead, Paul is dead.
My brother was a huge fan of the Beatles, had every single record. He also was a huge fan of the Breakfast Club. Remember?
Yeah, great music.
Wow. No, the album was called The Breakfast Club. What was the band called? I can't remember the band now. Anyways, he was a big fan of those groups. The Beatles especially had every record, every album, and it was just I heard that too about the Beatles being backwards as well.
Couldn't resist.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. So Matt, where are you going with your program, guy? I mean, kind of, if you got any plans to continue on with your program, any kind of growth that you want to do? It almost sounds to me like what Chris has going with his foundation really kind of mirrors a lot of what I can understand with your program going on. So can you kind of help us out a little bit as where you're going with yours?
Subcontext, you're involved, but anyway, so what I'm basically trying to do is, and I've got a lot of people very talented people helping me out with this. I'm looking for a community where investigators, mind you, get support, education, and more specifically, a safe environment to hone their skills, to help people, and to get them the answers they're looking for. So what I am doing is I'm trying to build this community. And Brian over here is a big player in that with his Parapost, to where it's kind of like that. But if somebody has an issue with a client, they have a question, or they need help with an investigation, or they're traveling, even something as simple as say, hey, we're traveling to Pennsylvania. They have people and teams that they can work with to go safely investigate, locations like Gettysburg. We can all support each other. We can all network. We can all enjoy and bounce ideas and do exactly what was stated earlier about that jigsaw puzzle. Start putting those pieces together. So that's really where I'm at. And I hold shows.
Talk to us. We'd be interested in learning more. Maybe we can work together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you both, of course, are interested. I actually hold my own little thing I call the Paracast. And podcast, Paracast, and well, I'm not creative, but with names. But it's twice a week I do these shows where I bring people on and give these teams who usually don't get the time of day, I should say, to some of these, we'll just call them Hollywood types, to get their evidence out there, to get their ideas out there. And I'm trying to create a network and an environment to where they can. Because who knows, maybe that big answer, that big puzzle piece comes from a small team.
Exactly. This is what I've been trying to get across to researchers is, what
Absolutely.
If one piece of information is the piece that unlocks the cure to cancer? Can you please understand this is not, we'll sign contracts. We have contracts. We're not using your data in any way to enrich ourselves.
Right.
It's all confidential, but a lot of these teams won't even give references. And it's like, well, I'm not going to send you on a case if I don't know how you've worked on cases with others.
Correct.
We need to know that you are capable and you're not crazy. I have seen too many bad teams, and unfortunately, I've had a couple of bad teams join us. We've gotten away from the team approach. We prefer now to bring on individuals who are more dedicated to the foundation, because one person from a team leaves, and all of a sudden the entire team leaves.
Right.
And their loyalty isn't to getting the work done. It's toward their team and their own agenda, and that's all ego, and that has no place in the foundation. It's something we work really hard on.
So Chris, Matt, Brian, John there. So what I'd like to do, we got a few viewers out right now that's kind of watching us. What I'd like to do is open up some questions from our viewers, if that's all right with you guys, and see if maybe we can get some of their questions answered. So if anybody has any questions they want to ask Chris or Sarah, most definitely Matt and Brian. So some of you guys know those guys.
They get enough of me.
Ask away, and I'll shoot it out there, and hopefully we can get some answers for you. So while we wait there,
I see Lisa from Minnesota Spirit Hunters.
Lisa,
and of course the eclectic medium, Miss Sarah Russell, aka Squeakers.
Howdy.
Let's see who else is here. Keith Evans, what's up, man? How you doing,
Keith?
So, Chris, about what was your age when you first started working with your grandparents?
Well, I started going on lecture tours with them when I was 14, but I went on my first investigation when I was 16, and it was an over-the-top poltergeist case, like right out of Hollywood. My grandmother didn't come that night. It was just my grandfather and a man named Paul Bartz, and we were in Lee, Massachusetts. It's a little tract house. There was a living room and a kitchen downstairs, and then 3 bedrooms and a bathroom upstairs, and then a pull-down staircase to the attic. And as soon as we got there, the husband and wife were sitting outside. They wouldn't go in without us. They were terrified. The refrigerator had been flying around. This hulking black thing appeared and picked up the woman's rosary and twirled them in front of her. They'd been attacked and had things thrown at them. As soon as we walked in, the whole house was shaking from pounding in the walls in repetitions of 3. Boom, boom, boom. And you felt the walls shake as you were going up the stairs.
Oh, wow.
And we get to the top of the stairs. The crucifix in the bathroom is upside down. I mean, talk about cliche. And then my grandfather says, Chris, I want you to sit in the master bedroom in the dark for the next hour and let us know if anything happens.
Oh,
like,
wow.
I'm afraid of the dark. You want me to do what?
So you're saying you were the guinea pig, Chris,
well, they were downstairs.
Warren.
They were downstairs with Holy Church incense,
right,
trying to piss this thing off so it would reveal itself more. And I'm up there listening to clawing in the walls and growling coming from behind my ear. I'm like, Gramps, I hear growling. Okay, Chris, tell us if anything else happens.
Wow.
What does he want to happen to me?
I call that conditioning.
Right.
I will say this. I owe my grandfather a huge debt of gratitude, because that night, 2 hulking black shapes came down the stairs. The woman screamed that her face was on fire, and when my grandfather and I looked, 3 claw marks appeared on the left side of her cheek, and blood dripped onto her chest. And then a pot with the church incense in it flew out of the kitchen and straight at my head. The lights started going on and off. The woman screamed she wanted to get out of the house. This is 3:15 at night in the morning. We're on the radio, an all-night radio program on the telephone. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to help this woman get out of the house. That sounds like a good idea. I run to the front door and the door won't open. We had already been in and out of that door a number of times and now it won't open. The recliner I was sitting in flips over and comes toward me. And I'm like, okay. Then the door opened by itself and she and I got out, leaving my grandfather sitting in the dark with these two hulking black shapes and the other two men upstairs on the phone in one of the bedrooms. That was, but I've never been afraid of the paranormal again. After that night, I went to bed without the light on. The dark, it never bothers me. It doesn't faze me anymore. It was baptism by fire.
The best
So
training.
I
Right.
thought of something, and I'm kind of curious on what either Sarah or Chris's answer will be. What are your thoughts on provoking?
Sarah?
Don't do it. You're going to get
I
exactly
see it way
what you're
too much.
asking for. Yeah. Like, you know, if you're going to piss off something, then what you're going to have is what you're expecting to get, which is something that's ticked off that can actually harm you, come home with you, attach to you. Like just don't do it. Don't do it silly. Yeah.
Yeah, I learned my lesson.
My view's a little bit different, only a little bit. I agree. It should always be a last resort. I only use it if there's some question as to whether or not I'm dealing with a human or inhuman entity. Human entities don't have that kind of power. And by provoking with religious provocation, sometimes it will reveal itself. I don't do it very often. It is a very dangerous thing to do. And if you're dealing with a human spirit, it's never necessary.
I'm hoping the people in the room and the replays, people understand that, because there's nothing that bothers me more than somebody walking into a place and try to provoke it right off, right from the beginning. I have a real problem with that. I never provoke. I'm always going in and being very, very respectful. And I say it in my videos. I'm just being respectful. I respect you. You respect me, and we'll get along great. And
Well, you know,
that's it.
it's like Sarah said, you know, I mean, these spirits, you know, they're people too. They have, you know, just as many feelings and emotions as we've got. And, you know, you're not going to just disrespect somebody you find off the street walking down the road, you know. So why would you walk into a place and disrespect these folks? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Exactly.
But I think we've all seen it, and we
Right.
all had our thoughts, and going through that screen and going, okay, stop it, you know. And
They do it for the clicks.
Yeah.
It's clickbait.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. You know, whenever it's a human spirit, I treat that spirit as though they're lost. Even the most miserable old man who just doesn't want anybody in his house and he's throwing dishes around and causing general chaos, you still treat him with respect. It's his home, and he's probably a bit confused.
A lot of these spirits are stuck in their death state as well, you know. If somebody had dementia before they passed, they could still have that confusion around them. So you're going to go in there and they're going to wonder, why are you here in my home? And then you go in there and you disrespect them on top of that. That's just cruel.
Yeah,
I agree.
my belief has always been that whatever you were when you were alive is what you're going to be when you passed on. That's my belief. That's what I believe in. So if you were a real terrible human being when you were alive, that's what you're going to be in the spirit world. That's my belief. I know some people will have different opinions about that, and that's fine. And that's what makes this world so great. We all have our own different opinions about things. But I agree with you, Sarah, for sure.
Well, you know, the thing about death, it can be traumatic.
Yeah.
So it can create change. But overall, you pretty much stay who you were. It's just if you die in a confused state or drugs or something of that nature, dementia, yeah, you can be trapped. You can be stuck, and it could require some gentle help to help you pass over. I had a case recently in Costa Rica, and they had brought me there without my knowing where I was going or why I was going. I was just going out with some friends, and they brought me to this abandoned building. I am not a fan of abandoned buildings. They're dangerous, and usually there's nothing good there for you to work with. But they were visiting from Mexico, and I didn't want to disappoint them. So as soon as I started walking down the stairs, I started choking. And when I got under the stairs, I realized this is where the man who had lived there had taken his breakfast. And he was an American. He was former military. I picked up all of that. And he had killed himself right there. And he had hung himself. And at first, he wanted nothing to do with me, avoided me completely. He's like, no, I'm happy here. Leave me alone. I like where I am. That's why I stay. But the truth was, he was afraid because he had committed suicide. He had killed his dogs before he killed himself, so that they'd be, taken care of or not have to be taken care of, I suppose. And then he realized he was still here, and that it didn't all just end. And it took a little work, but there was another woman with me who was a sensitive, and he liked her. So with her help, the two of us were able to help him to understand he wasn't going to hell and that he could pass over. And he did.
So, Chris, we have a question here from our viewers from Lisa. So if we can read this real quick. It says, Chris, how did you handle others' comments or questions, whether they were positive or negative, knowing the abilities your family had growing up and the increasing popularity of your grandparents?
Well, first off, my grandparents were just people. They're not superheroes, and they shouldn't ever be treated that way. And that's not saying you shouldn't respect them. You should. They were great people, but they were still people. Don't hold them up too high. We all have skeletons in our closets. Having said that, yeah, when I was young, I was the grandson of the weirdos, the ghost hunters, and I was treated pretty badly, I have to admit. But by the time I was 16 and I went on my first case, I came back from that, and all of a sudden I was a rock star at school. I was like, you saw what? It changed completely. I did try to defend my grandparents a couple of times online, and the trolls were amazing. And I realized it's a losing game and it's not worth playing. So I don't care what people say about my family. All I care about, and this is the same thing my grandparents really felt, was what's important is if you're in trouble, you know who to come to for help. That's it. My job is not to teach or to prove the paranormal to anyone. My job is to let people who already know that they're dealing with it have a place to come to.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, me too. Well said. Well said.
Absolutely. I hate to follow that up, but I do actually. I wrote down. Chris, Sarah. I usually don't prep or script anything for any of my shows, so. But I figured, going with respect, I jot down a couple things for you folks. But one thing I am curious about, religion and paranormal. You guys have talked about it a couple of times throughout the show. I don't want to know the difference between, like, the separation. What I'm interested in is the interaction. Being investigators, does the church treat you guys kind of like okay, well, we'll just consult them, or we'll just talk to you guys because you're coming to us and we got to save face? Or is it an actual really unique and nurturing relationship?
I can see the smile on Chris's
I-
face. He's itching to answer this question.
I lived in a very devout Bible belt in Manitoba when I first came from the UK. And they wanted to save me because I wasn't talking to spirit. I was talking to the devil.
Of course.
And that made me think, if your faith makes you believe that I need to be saved, then that's fine. And I thank you for your caring words. But I don't, because my faith is, as a spiritualist, is that we all, there is life after death. That is my faith. And they call it faith for a reason. You can't prove faith, right? It's what's in your heart. So I think it's just really important to go with what you feel is right in your heart and be respectful of what other people may feel is their faith as well. And some people are pure. I have people on my team that are saying that they're atheists, that, they don't believe in that. And they are the best skeptics you will ever have on your team because they see it from a purely black and white point of view, and sometimes can rein the rest of us back in a little bit when we get a little bit too excited. So there's good and bad to each. And I think that just to go into something with compassion, I think that's the important thing.
I'm a minister, and I have no religion at all. For me, there are billions of paths to God, and some of them are direct routes. Some are really lost in the dark, but they're all on their own path. And religion to me is one person or many people's revelations that have been passed down through many, many other hands. Religion can lead you to a spiritual connection to God, but it's not necessary. A spiritual connection comes from here, from inside. And for me, religion isn't important in the paranormal. Faith is. Faith in something greater than yourself. Combining that with ritual to focus your faith and your intentions in a way to protect yourself or to help others. These are powerful. They work. But I've seen it work with Hindus, Buddhists, voodoo priestesses, hoodoo, umbanda, you name it, witchcraft. And they all work. God listens if you ask for help. And I say this a lot. NASA recently projected that there are more living worlds in the universe than there are grains of sand on Earth. And there are trillions of grains of sand on Earth. So I'm supposed to believe that one of our religions on Earth has a good idea of God, the creator of trillions of living worlds. Talk about being a small piece of a puzzle. My faith comes from accepting my ignorance without ego. I spent my first 50 years looking for God. And it was when I finally accepted, look, God is too great for me. I'm like an amoeba on a man's back trying to understand what he's going to do tomorrow. There's no chance. I don't have that perspective. So that's where my faith comes in. My faith comes in accepting how small I am.
Interesting.
Very well put. And actually,
I don't know if anybody saw this, but I did. Right at the 11:09 mark, something shooting went behind Chris. It went from the right hand. It was on the right hand side when you're looking at the screen. It shot. So you saw it, Sarah?
I did. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I just thought it was my internet. I thought it was maybe my internet. So I just was like, okay.
I wasn't
They're not
paying any
too much
attention to myself.
Yeah, my theory on that I always said growing up is I believe in God. I just don't have to go to church to say that.
Right.
Totally.
Absolutely agree.
And
I
you know,
like
that
going
amount-
to churches when they're not having mass. They're beautiful. They're
Yeah.
interesting, especially if I'm in a new country. But I've never felt very comfortable. And to get back to your question, I don't have a relationship with the Catholic Church, for instance. My grandparents were not exactly liked by the Catholic Church because they would publicize their cases. Um, they would use publicity to force the church to work with them. And 2 years ago, I lost a man because the church moved too slowly. They agreed he was under possession, but they didn't do the exorcism in time, and he came under possession and killed himself.
Mm.
So yeah, no, I'm not a fan of that. That's one of the reasons I've accepted the responsibility of being an exorcist, so I don't have to deal with that bureaucracy.
You know, what I find really interesting is not to, I would say, tweak the conversation and the topic. You said about, you know, there being trillions and trillions of galaxies and stars out there. I use that same analogy whenever somebody asks me if I believe in UFOs and extraterrestrials.
Mhm.
I said, you know, there are so many out there. How prideful is it for us to say, number one, we are the only intelligent life, and number two, we are the smartest?
Yeah,
I personally think we are the dumbest.
we're unevolved. We're working on it.
They lock their
they're
doors
here.
as they go by.
You know, the evidence is overwhelming that they're here. Governments have been releasing data. Government officials have come forward. There's the Disclosure Project, I believe it's called, which has done an amazing job of bringing in hundreds of government officials to say what they've experienced. We almost ended the world over a flock of birds in the late 60s. Our missiles thought it was an incoming flight of missiles from the USSR, and we started prepping to fire at them. And all of a sudden, a UFO appears over each of the sites and knocks each one out. And they're not on a network. They could not have done that through a network. Each one had to be done individually. Another time, we were sending up a weapon into space, and a UFO shows up, fires a light at the rocket, then swirls around to the other side from underneath, fires a light at it again, and it blew up. And that's reported by the government.
Now, what's your guys' opinion on the dark night satellite, or the black night?
I've read
satellite,
about it. It's interesting, but I need more information about it. I mean, I've seen the photos. I just don't know. I don't know.
Interesting. Cool.
Sarah, do you know what that is?
You see what that?
No, I
was?
don't. About the only thing I can speak to when it comes to UFOs is probably me seeing a satellite outside and going, "Oh, look, it's an alien." But I have had a lady come to me for a reading, and through the use of my skills and also psychometry, I saw through her eyes when she was abducted. And that was a huge eye-opener for me.
So, Chris, what's your take on what they call the Anunnaki?
Oh, the Anunnaki. All right, are those the ancient aliens, gods?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Here's my problem with that. Everybody wants to say that we needed these ancient aliens to create the pyramids and all of these other things. I've been to Egypt. I've seen the failed pyramids in Saqqara and the step pyramids that led to the Great Pyramids. when we start saying it was aliens, it's taking away from our own human ingenuity and what we are capable of. There are plenty of evidence on cave paintings and temples and elsewhere that show some kind of visitors. But there's also a lot of evidence. For instance, there's in a Hindu temple, there are pineapples carved into the walls, and pineapples were never in India. They were a New World thing, but thousands of years ago, somebody carved these pineapples into the temple. Just like cocaine was found in mummies in Egypt, and cocaine is another New World product.
I think we lost Eldon.
Yeah, I was gonna say we lost one of our hosts. Oh, there he is.
There he is, and he's not there. And he's not there.
Speaking of
The aliens took him.
abductions,
The aliens took him.
He's been
on the
abducted.
same page.
I knew we should have spoken about aliens.
Crap. Well, he is in Arizona.
This is true. Yeah, so that's great. You know what? It's been wonderful meeting you, and it's been an honor, to be honest. And
Sarah is pretty terrific. I agree.
Yeah,
I'm always knocked out when I meet her.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about Sarah.
Good.
My apologies.
Well, thank you, sirs.
But myself personally, I think it's been absolutely fascinating listening to you both and your perspectives on the paranormal. And it really surprised me earlier in the show when you said you don't like the paranormal, and that really surprised me. What is that? What is that?
Speaking of paranormal,
Good Lord. You are making a heck of a lot of noise.
I'm trying, man. I'm just trying to make myself known,
Okay.
So Eldon, we were talking about aliens and you just disappeared. So what kind of trip are you on, bud?
You don't want to know that, man. I just keep that a secret since everybody just doesn't want to share too much,
For myself,
I tried to quantum leap over there to kind of visit with Chris, but it just didn't work too well. So, I guess we still have to evolve a little bit before we can get as smart as they are,
For myself personally, it's been an honor to meet you both, and knowing Sarah's in Canada. Yay! And us Canadians are pretty cool people.
Absolutely.
We are, aren't we?
Yeah, we
Even
definitely
English
are.
Canadians.
Yes.
Yeah,
definitely.
you Canadians aren't bad. You aren't bad.
Yeah, we might say a little too much, but at the end of the day, we're good people. So
I absolutely agree. We've got some great members in the foundation in Canada.
So what are your, just out of curiosity, so what are some of your other members that you have out here in Canada? What are their names? If you can share that. I don't know if you can share that.
Francois Dubé,
Okay.
he's in Quebec, close to Toronto, but is still in Quebec.
Yeah.
And then we have a doctor on staff. She's a retired doctor, Dr. Andrea Chernin. She's in Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Okay.
And we have a few other members with Sarah's team, which Sarah can speak to.
Yeah, we have out here in BC, we have Dean Trumbley and John Kazuka, and they're from True North Paranormal. That's how I first met Kim. Met Chris, and
that's right.
Then we have I have a.
It took me away from a Super Bowl game for an interview. I mean, really.
But it was worth it.
And it was the Patriots. Come on.
I don't do football. Can you tell?
Nor do I. So we're on the same page, Sarah. So it's all good.
I got a terrible towel upstairs.
Actually, I know True North. I know True North. They're on Paraflix, like me. Mm-hmm. I'm on Paraflix as well, and as a content creator, I've spoken to True North on several occasions. Great people.
Yeah, I started as their team medium. That's how I kind of got together with Chris to get him to interview for their podcast. So yeah, and there's my team, Kootenai Paranormal Society, and we're small, but we're perfectly formed.
Small but perfectly formed. I like that. That's good. I like
Got a
that.
nice ring to it.
That's
I
good.
like that.
Kind of like Sarah herself.
Yeah.
We end the show. I got to know. You like football? What's your team?
Mine, Patriots.
Oh,
You had to know that, Brian. Come on, that's kind of got to be a given. I mean, if Chris
I
wasn't a
was
Patriots
from
fan,
Connecticut. I was born in Connecticut, and when I started traveling, I was in Thailand many years ago, and I missed home, and I became a Patriots fan. Before that, I had been a Giants fan, but
Well, I was
became
in
a Patriots
Pattaya,
fan, and yeah.
I'm like Sarah. I don't watch
I'll
any
tell you,
football,
Chris.
so.
I'll tell you,
Doesn't
Chris.
do it
I
for
went
me.
to Pattaya and Sadaheep over there in Thailand, and I still my black and yellow, man.
I spent 2 years there. My son was born there in Bangkok.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Not too far
Yeah.
from Pattaya.
No,
So I have to ask Sarah, since you are in Canada, are you a hockey fan?
No, I'm English.
Oh.
Hockey
had
to
me
me
until
you
is
got
field
to there.
hockey. You know, where you bash somebody across the ankles with your hockey stick. That's as much as I do.
Leafs fan. Sorry, Leafs fan. 1967 is the last time we won the cup. So,
There's still time.
well, I'm wondering if I'm still going to be alive by the time they win.
hey,
Nobody
the
dies.
Patriots
Fine.
did terribly for like 20, 30 years. So, anything.
Yeah,
don't feel bad.
Yeah,
I
but how
feel
many Super Bowls have they won now?
Cowboys winning the Super Bowl again.
Yeah, well, now they've lost their quarterback, so who knows?
Oh,
He's already been winning for the other team.
I will say, and I heard it today on the radio today, that Chris Belichick is probably one of the greatest football coaches of all time, and what he's done with the Patriots.
Oh, I agree, but is it John Belichick?
John.
Not Chris. I know it's not Chris. I would
It's
have
Chris?
remembered
I
if
thought
his
it
name
was
was
Chris
Chris.
I thought his name was. See, I don't. That's how much I know about football.
Or is it Bill?
So
Bill Belichick.
Bill
Belichick.
Belichick.
I was gonna say it's Bill. I
Sorry.
thought.
Sorry, I said Chris. That's how much I know. I just heard it on the radio today, so that's why I spurted that out. So, I don't know anything about football, so.
Well, I do have a question for going a little bit back to the paranormal, if I may. But for Sarah and Chris, just curiosity. For new investigators, new teams, enthusiasts, whatever you may, what advice do you have for them?
Ladies first.
Oh, thanks. Don't do it on your own. That's the first biggie. You don't know what you're going to come up against. Only be somewhere that you are allowed to be. You don't want to get yourself arrested. Be respectful and know what you're getting yourself into, because realistically, that's where you can really cause some problems for yourself and your family.
I agree. And I would suggest going on Parapost Network and learning about the work before you start doing this. Get a good mentor. Look into mentorships. Look into, look at our videos, because one thing we don't do is hype. We give information. We teach. I'm not into clicks and likes. But I don't want people doing this with the mindset of, wow, this is cool. They have to go in with the mindset that you're doing it to help somebody.
Mm.
If you're not doing it to help somebody, you don't have a right to be there. And you shouldn't be there. If this is about your ego, you're going to get hurt, or you're going to cause somebody else to get hurt. Ego is the worst thing in this world,
100%.
and it is everywhere. You know, it used to be when I started. Oh my God, that sounds so old. When I started out over 40 years ago, you know, you were a weirdo. It wasn't cool. Today we're treated like we're superheroes or rock stars, and we're not. We're just people. And it's if any good gets done, it isn't us doing the good. You know, it's God.
100%.
And people shouldn't be losing sight of that.
Great advice from the both of you. Great advice. I believe in both of that, and that was excellent. Because I'm asked that question many times myself. What would I say to somebody that's new, getting new in the business? And my biggest thing is research.
Yeah.
Know what you're doing. And that research is a very broad word, and what I mean by that, and it's knowing what you're doing. You have to have a plan, and you really have to research on what, and
you have to know where you're getting your information. Unfortunately, there's a lot of bad information out there.
And what's your intent? Why are you doing this?
Yeah,
Totally.
Those are my beliefs. So
don't get me wrong. At 16, I was doing it for the thrills. I was not a saint. And I get that. I understand the adrenaline rush. But here's the other reality, and all of you know this. You're going to sit on your ass for hours and hours and days, and nothing's going to happen. You know, it's not an every single time occurrence. When these
gets very, very boring.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you better be good at playing games with the family, or, you know, a good conversationalist, because you're going to spend a lot of time doing nothing.
It's like my slogan always goes: they don't work on our time. We work on their time.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing, and this is advice my grandfather had. He was asked often, you know, well, why don't we ever see these horrible things? You know, why don't we see demons everywhere? He says, well, if you want to hunt tigers, you got to go where tigers are. And I'm suggesting that you don't go looking for tigers, any of you. You know?
Yeah.
You know, if you've got any negativity, that's another important piece of advice for you, Brian. To tell your people, if they're depressed, if they're anxious, if they're afraid, if they're going through some hard times, that is not the time to take up this profession. We have people on staff who are fantastic researchers, but occasionally they have to step away because they're not in the right headspace at that time. And your negativity can bring about something really bad in a house. So keep that in mind. Go in always with light and with your faith guarding you. And if you're not taking the time to protect yourself, then you're not able to protect anybody else either. So learn how to do that first.
Yeah, it's all great advice.
Outstanding. Yeah. Outstanding.
But you know what? I'm gonna say my goodbyes because I've been nonstop all day. And
busy, Brian.
It's 11:30 here right now,
you.
And it's been nonstop. And so I'm going to take my exit. I want to say thank you to Brian and Landon for inviting me on the show today.
Absolutely. And Brian, I shot your link there to Chris's Facebook, so he should have that in his messenger. So
okay. And Matt, as always, I talked to Matt earlier. We had a meeting earlier today. There's something big that's going to be coming in January. I want everybody to watch and listen because there's something big coming. And I think Sarah and Chris, you'll be both thrilled to what we're going to be doing because I think it's important what we're doing. But it's been a real honor to meet you, Chris and Sarah. And I've had an amazing time listening to you both. And I'm glad I was able to ask you a couple of questions. And
I'd like to talk to you more. Please contact me.
Yeah, I will. If Eldon sends me your link, I will. For Facebook, I'll add you, and yeah, I'd definitely love to talk to you more. But I want to thank everybody, and again, Eldon and Brian, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate
Outstanding. Thanks for coming, Brian. As always, man. It's a pleasure talking with you, man. And we'll talk to you soon, man.
You guys have a wonderful rest of the night. Okay.
All right. Take care, Brian.
Take care.
See you, bro.
Oh, guys, unfortunately, I'm running 7%, so we're gonna. I started at 99, and I don't want to end this. This is just.
Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get you, Chris, and kind of linked up there with Brian John. There, it looks like we're losing
You guys.
Brian over there. So Matt, we'll go ahead and get you guys linked up too.
Great.
I appreciate that. And, I have to say, in the middle of what Brian ever he's doing, I really do appreciate the invite, Eldon. Brian, if you can even hear me, you as well, brother. Chris, Sarah, a pleasure. And I would love to network with you both. I would love to pick your brain sometime even more, maybe even have you on my show if you guys are interested.
Sure.
It's a lot of fun. I will say that it's one way of putting it, but I really did enjoy our discussion tonight, and I appreciate everything you guys have been doing, and I appreciate the time you guys sacrificed for this show.
Not a problem. Pleasure to speak to you.
For us, it's all about getting the message out there so that if somebody is in trouble, they know where to come. So it's never a sacrifice. I promise you.
Well, I'm glad to see that, we're on the same page as far as that's concerned. It's about helping not just, clientele, of course, and the spirits, but teams. You have to have all three to make what, at least we're trying to do work.
Right.
Oh, there's everybody again.
Yep. So I just sent his Facebook to you, Chris.
All right.
So you should also have his in your messenger when you check it.
All right. Thank you.
And Chris and
I'll definitely reach out.
I'd like to say it's been, a personal honor for me to meet the two of you. And I would definitely like you back on my show again sometime soon.
Be happy
For
to.
sure.
Be happy to.
Outstanding. Okay, guys. Well, it's been a pleasure meeting you, Chris. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure seeing you. Matt, as always, brother, it's always a pleasure to have you on and pleasure to talk to you. So I guess we're going to go ahead and end this here tonight since poor Brian over there is at probably 6% now, I think. So
that's how we know the show's over.
Yeah, show's pretty much over at that point when Brian's phone dies. Yeah.
Hey guys, for me it's 11:37 at night. I'm happy to end this.
Okay.
Hey, same here.
Okay, we'll connect there on Facebook, and I'll get you guys all linked up and get that all sent abroad for you too, Matt, with Chris. So, all right, guys.
Appreciate it.
God bless you all.
Well, thank you for coming. Chris, take care. Sarah, take care.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Yeah, same to you, Chris.